When did we sue? January 2020. So it took them 11 months almost to get us these documents about Burisma. We asked for records of communications from the U.S. Embassy in Kiev, our embassy, mentioning Burisma. Now, you may recall that the State Department shut down their FOIA operations in response to the COVID pandemic. Frankly, it was more of an excuse than anything else. So this is what happens. My microphone is attached to the computer, and when I move, the microphone wire pulls, and that's why the computer moves. So that's what's happening there. So they finally gave us what is a briefing memo showing that the Democratic lobbying firm hired by Burisma met with the anti-Trump ambassador, Ambassador Yovanovitch. She's the woman who testified against Obama during the impeachment hearings. And in my view, she's responsible for covering up a lot of corruption going on in Ukraine vis-a-vis Biden, the Ukrainian interferers in our election, the Soros operation, all sorts of stuff that was going on her watch. And we got these documents, and it's a briefing checklist about a meeting she was having with this Burisma law firm called Blue Star Strategies, whose chief operating officer and co-founder is Sally Painter. So Painter was going in to meet with Yovanovitch on a variety of issues. One of those issues notes that she was planning a meeting in the embassy with the Foreign Commercial Service officer regarding the Burisma Group energy company. Now, this was happening in when? February 22nd, 2019. The middle of the impeachment attack just before the impeachment attack on President Trump. Excuse me, I shouldn't say it was the middle of it. I forget that the impeachment was just a few months ago. I forget. It goes back further in time as the weeks go along, but it was only the beginning of the year, right? So in February of 2019, they're meeting with Hunter Biden's lobbying shop. Now, Hunter Biden was still on the board of Burisma at the time. So yeah, it was his lobbying shop, this Blue Star Strategies. And Sally Painter, the person running it, Judicial Watch has run into before. How? Well, we found documents during the Chinagate scandal, back during the Clinton years, and back then she was at the Commerce Department, and she was implicated in the alleged sale of Commerce Department trade mission seats, where the government would pay for trade missions abroad to get contracts for companies abroad. And they were basically saying, you pony up to the Democratic National Committee or the Clinton campaign, you get a seat on the trade mission. And Painter's fingerprints were all over that. So it's no surprise to see her pop up again with this Burisma scandal. And the records also show that in 2016, an email from a sender, whose name is blacked out, was sent to a person called Amos Hochstein, who is a senior advisor to Vice President Joe Biden on international energy affairs. Hodgson was an expert in energy, unlike Hunter Biden. And the subject line was Burisma News Devon Archer. And Devon Archer was Hunter Biden's business partner in Burisma and also on the board of Burisma. The email includes links to two articles, one by the New York Post on May 12, 2016, which detail how Archer, a business partner of Hunter Biden and also a member of the Burisma board of directors, had been arrested on suspicion of securities fraud in a $60 million scam that ripped off and impoverished South Dakota, Sioux, Indian, and others. And the records also. So you had Joe Biden's top aide, one of his top aides, getting a heads up on a scandal implicating his son, Joe's son's business partner. Now, his business partner, this story is back up here again because he was, I think, convicted, but the judge threw out the conviction, and this appellate court reinstated it. So now he's facing now Devon Archer is facing sentencing. He could be going to jail on this. I'm sure he's unhappy camper too. That's what Giuliani said. But the judge threw out the conviction, and this appellate court reinstated it. So now he's facing now Devin Archer is facing sentencing. He could be going to jail on this. I'm sure he's unhappy camper too. That's what Giuliani said. And the records also include, and I've told you about how the Ukraine embassy gang under Yovanovitch was monitoring the social media accounts of Rudy Giuliani and Don Trump Jr., Dan Bongino, Sean Hannity, Laura Ingraham, Lou Dobbs, because they were nervous about what they were saying about Burisma, Joe Biden, Soros, and all the rest. And these emails further confirm how they were desperate to monitor all of this. And they were monitoring all of these people's tweets. If they were doing it in an organized fashion, it would be illegal. It's a violation of the Privacy Act. So we have new Burisma documents showing that the anti-Trump State Department knew about the shady Biden-Burisma connections and were desperate to monitor conservative critics of the Bidens. Desperate. So don't believe the laptop. Don't believe Tony Bubelinski, excuse me, and I say that sarcastically. Believe the documents. The Obama State Department knew very much about the Burisma scandal. I told you previously about other documents, emails from a State Department official, another anti-Trump State Department official, testified against Trump in the impeachment, sent to Yovanovitch, bemoaning the fact the Russians were trolling Joe Biden over his ethical compromise, or his conflicts of interest in terms of ethics, with having his son be on the board of that corrupt company, Burisma. Can't call it Burisma, the gift that keeps on giving. They all knew about Burisma and Biden. And as I keep on saying, the dirty little secret about Joe Biden is there was no dirty little secret about his corruption. And many people knew about it. So we expect to get more documents. As I say, the Biden scandal ain't going away no matter what happens on the day. So there's that.
But here's a little simple chart of the Biden crime family. And these are the 4 countries while he was vice president that he took bribes from. In Iraq, Joe Biden was appointed as the point man for Iraq. He was supposed to negotiate for a status of forces agreement so that we could protect the people of Iraq. He failed to get it, but his brother got a 1/3 interest in a $1.5 billion housing development project in Iraq. And his brother was a lifetime sleazy lobbyist, knew nothing about housing. So that's the first one. When he gets appointed as the point man for Ukraine, his son is just getting thrown out of the Navy for being a crack addict, which he is, and he's a lifetime degenerate crack addict, due mostly to his father. If you want to blame somebody for that, you blame Joe for putting his son in a lifetime of crime. He could have found some bum in Washington to collect his money. He did not have to use his drug-addicted son, but that's what he chose. His son gets hired for a position for which he has no experience. He's really disqualified by virtue of being a proven drug addict. He had a bankruptcy in his past. And they put him into the biggest and crookedest oil and gas company, Burisma, in Ukraine. But there's a reason for it. The reason for it is the man, Mykola Zlochevsky, ran away. He ran away with $5 billion, and he wanted to come back and claim his business. The only way he could do that is to make a deal with the president of Ukraine, Poroshenko, a very good friend of Joe Biden's, and a massive crook. So Joe became the go-between. That's why Hunter Biden was paid a total of $14 million in order to do nothing.
So he got
Tommy
the board.
never went.
He got the board money. He got the payments monthly, but there were additional consulting.
There were additional laundered payments that now amount really, depending on how you attribute money, between 10 and 14 million.
And those and that info comes from Ukrainian sources, or
all comes from Ukrainian sources, and about 4 million of it is laundered. It goes from Ukraine to Latvia to Cyprus. They make believe it's a loan. They then send it to them, and they forgive the loan. Typical.
Well, you figured that out last year, though.
Oh, this did not require the hard drives. I gave this evidence to the Department of Justice in January of this year, and they have not interviewed a single witness, and there are 6 of them over there ready to be interviewed, and they're ready to show them the documents.
What is? But we could get to China. I don't want to skip China.
Well, China's the big one. China involves all 3 of his bag men, and China involves 2 deals. The one is the one I mentioned before. He takes his son to China. He fails to negotiate the Chinese out of the islands they dispute with Japan, and his son gets a $1 billion commitment to the private equity fund that included Whitey Bulger's nephew, and then he gets an additional $500 million for a total of $1.5 billion, all received while Joe Biden was our vice president, supposedly negotiated in a disinterested manner. I mean, don't you think the American people have a right to know that the man negotiating against our biggest adversary, that his son has gotten $1.5 billion for a make-believe, silly, stupid private equity fund? How Obama could hide that from us has to amount to something.
So the Biden defenders say, look, they kind of admit tacitly that these business operations were taking place. They deny that Biden got money. Other than the texts where they say, where Hunter is saying, I'm doing this for the family, I'm tired of doing all this work for the family, and it's clearly Biden's the big guy, all that. Do you have evidence, or what is the evidence that shows that he was getting money directly or indirectly from these various deals and transactions?
There is evidence of that, but that really isn't necessary. You can be bribed. I mean, I can say, yeah, I'll let you out of prison. Let's say I'm the prosecutor. I'll let you out of prison, but just give my son $1 million. You don't have to be the recipient of the money to commit bribery. You can say, give it to my daughter, give it to my best friend. That constitutes a bribe. But did he get money? Yes. First of all, there's the one I mentioned where he says to his daughter, he got 1/2 of everything I got, right off the top.
Right.
Went into a special account for him. Hunter says that. And then there's the memo that we discovered. It was hidden. There's a contract, 50% for the Bidens, 50% for the Chinese communists. That's going to be $10 million a year, not pennies. $1 million up front. And then there's a hidden agreement. The hidden agreement lists at the bottom one additional person getting money. It says 10% to H for the big guy. So we went back into the hard drive. We produced 2 other documents where Hunter refers to his father as the big guy. And now Mr. Bobulinski has testified and is willing to has given a sworn statement to the FBI, I should add, saying that he was called the big guy and everybody knew Joe was getting money. Joe discussed it with him. So, I mean, that's pretty much a closed case. I mean, I could get an indictment based on that. There's enough evidence to get an indictment. You've got documentary evidence. You prove who the big guy is. He's getting 10%, like 2 internal documents that are contemporary. You've got Bobulinski, who testifies to it. I suspect by the time you finish, the 2 other outside guys, Gillers and I've forgotten the other guy's name, Wilson or something. Kevin Archer's going to crack. Yeah. Kevin Archer, there's a text in there from Kevin Archer to Hunter saying, why do I have to take the rap for the whole family? He's very bitter. He's very angry. He feels he's the only one that went to jail, and he's going back to jail. He got convicted, and then a judge with political connections to him, they're hard to believe, reversed the conviction. And the Second Circuit reversed the judge.
You know, one of the other abuses we've seen is D.C. Mayor Bowser, who had the city paint near the White House on 16th Street. So picture the White House. Let's say it's facing north. So this is the let's say this is the White House right here, and this is 16th Street. 16th Street comes right into it. And she painted on that using your tax dollars. And I say yours in the sense it's not just local money that helps D.C. because it's the federal city. It gets taxpayer dollars from all over the country to paint the phrase Black Lives Matter, which, as you know, is controversial. But individual Americans have a right to go around and make arguments about that. But the government's putting that statement on the streets of D.C. And then they allowed protesters to add equals defund the police, which is really outrageous.